Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to my Game Week 12 team selection video. The international break is finally over. There's a lot of FPL coming in the next few months. The next international break is until March, so this is where we really make our gains over the next. I think there's about 9 game weeks in the next 6 game weeks, so really looking forward to it. I'm recording this video on Friday morning. We've had some press conferences yesterday on Thursday. Ideally, I would have liked to recorded this after the press conferences today, but I've been quite sick all of last week, been cooped up at home with the flu. I wanted to get out to dinner with a few friends today evening. So getting this out to you guys now, if there's any significant developments in the press conferences, I shall update them via pinned comment underneath this video or on the usual social media platforms where you guys follow us on Blue Sky or on Twitter. So let's jump right into it. Let's look back at last week. I got 57 points, which was a green arrow from 3.5 million to 3.1 million. Doesn't take much to get a green arrow at that rank, obviously, I know. So the main loss over here was primarily going for Haaland captain over Salah. The thinking over here was that, although I did expect Salah to do well, I thought it was a 50-50, almost was a close call. So a lot of the people I'm competing with don't even own own Haaland. So I figured that maybe I could catch up with them, at least when I owned Salah. And the way the EO was at my rank, I think Haaland was at 130, Salah was at 60-70. I would still be gaining if I captained Haaland. It didn't really work out, was not doing too bad. I think at one point Haaland was on 8, Salah was just on an assist. So this has been happening the last few minutes of games this season have not been too kind to me. So things swung the other way with Haaland getting his yellow card, Salah getting the last minute goal from Carlos heading it onto his face. So we live and learn. Fabianski came in. It was only my second goalkeeper clean sheet of the season. Bench Flecken, who will come back into goal likely. But it's interesting now to have a goalkeeping decision to make every week. I didn't really think that would be the case. Lewis is a big concern now. At the time of recording, we haven't heard officially from Guardiola, but the news is that Stones, Akanji, and De Bruyne are fully fit. Walker is also fine now. So the first choice backline is coming together for Manchester City, and I do think he might prefer Walker against Son, and now the fixture congestion is coming up. The Lewis minutes are starting to get more and more of a concern, so he has to go soon. Gabriel has picked up no points over the last 6 game weeks, but with the run coming up for Arsenal, this is when the returns should come. Nuri came through with a clean sheet. You don't buy him for his clean sheet, you buy him for his attacking returns, but it was nice to get that. It'll be interesting to see now what formation they deploy in the next game, because the news coming out that Bueno is injured, so they might be short in the centre back area, so they might be forced to revert to a back 4, in which case he's not as attacking. Nothing for Semenyo, lots of shots but no real returns. He's currently a doubt. He wasn't seen any of the training pictures that Bournemouth posted yesterday, but they didn't post a lot, so it's not very conclusive. Salah, obviously, don't need me guys to talk about. Underlying numbers aren't great for Salah, but just keeps delivering the points. Boomo with an assist, Palmer with a blank. Struggles a little bit in the games against the big teams, but it's a lot of flat track games now, as we'll talk about later in the video. No returns for Strand Larsen, Haaland captain, Raul with an assist, Mikalenko clean sheet on the bench. Let's move on now and look forward. As always, we'll start with the captaincy matrix to look at the big hitter comparison over the upcoming few weeks. Haaland's fixtures do get a little bit better now, so it does become a tougher and tougher decision as the weeks go on to sell him. And now, obviously, the first choice players are back. And I think a big thing now that you'll see in the future numbers that I'm going to show you that the algorithms can't really quantify is Pep Guardiola signing a new contract at Manchester City. Now, you guys missed it. He signed a 1-year contract with an option for an additional 1 year, so it could even be 2 years. And I think that's a big boost to the entire squad. The uncertainty of a manager leaving is never a good thing. So I think this might galvanize the squad along with their players returning to fitness. Saka, at the time of writing, again, no press conferences, and it's not like Arteta is going to really give us anything anyway, right? But the news is that he's facing a quote-unquote race to be fit. So I don't really think you buy Saka this week. You probably hold him. See what Arteta says later, but again, you're not really going to know more. If you have him, probably give him 1 more week to assess, because I think more than the Nottingham fixture, the fixture might be West Ham, the one we need to target. Salah's fixture is actually toughened up a little bit after Southampton. I think Man City, obviously, given their defensive malaise, isn't a bad fixture, but Newcastle and Everton are pretty good. Now, Everton are top for XGC over the last 6 game weeks. Fulham are quite good as well, but then again, gets better with Tottenham, Leicester, West Ham. If you have Salah, You're not really ever looking to sell him. The question is really, do you bring him in this week for Haaland? And I think that really depends on you. What you need to assess is that over the next 5 to 6 game weeks, how many times you prefer captaining Haaland or Salah, and what that extra 2.7 or 2.5, whatever the difference is right now, what that gets you. There's never going to be a good week, right? Haaland can bag a hat-trick on any fixture, Liverpool, Manchester United, Aston Villa, etc. So you just need to pick your poison and be comfortable with that. In terms of the other heavy hitters, another one you guys obviously need to focus on is Palmer. We mentioned it loads of times now. Pretty much a smooth fixture run all the way up to game week 22 with no real bad fixtures in there. He's probably the premium you need to target now. And if I was given a choice, if I had to bring in just one this week between Salah, Palmer, and Haaland, it would be Palmer purely for the long term. That being said, as a captaincy option this week in particular, I don't like him as much because I think in the away games, right, and I think this data is backed up by last season, and you can check LR's big hitter comparison for that. Away, Palmer's returns are not as prolific as they are at home, even against the weak, quote-unquote, weaker sides. Isak, again, fantastic fixtures now. I like these fixtures a lot in terms of attackers for Newcastle, especially West Ham, Palace. Even Liverpool is at St. James Park. They're always fired up for these big games. Brentford, Leicester, Ipswich. It's a fantastic run, and I think if I was to sell Haaland, it would be Isak I would go for. I think he has potential to match him. There is a slight concern about Wilson now. Apparently, he's fit. How long he stays fit remains to be seen, but I don't think he will be starting games anytime soon. You'll likely see him come on late as a substitute for Isak. Bruno, of course, if you've not brought him in, the window I think is drifting. There's a lot of people looking to move on Foden to Bruno. People in our Discord were asking us whether we should do it even for a hit. I think if we have Foden in particular, I would do it because now with De Bruyne back, Foden's minutes look a bit iffy, and the fixture right after this is Liverpool away anyway. And then you look at over here, Ipswich, Everton, even Arsenal under new manager could be a good fixture, and Forest. There's something about the new manager bounce. I always feel that you should invest in it. So Foden to Bruno is a move that I could get behind. Again, a look at the fixture difficulty rating for the next few weeks. Wolves, Ipswich, Brighton, Arsenal, Bournemouth, and Chelsea really are teams you need to target. Newcastle obviously up there, all the players we just spoke about. With Brentford, it's a bit interesting because I don't think Everton away is an easy fixture now that Branthwaite is back. Leicester is good. Villa away, obviously not so great. Newcastle at home is okay-ish, but Brentford at home always score goals. Chelsea away, not so great, but that being said, Chelsea have not kept a clean sheet at Stamford Bridge this season. Forest, again, a decent defense. So after game week 13, the run is a bit middling. So if you're going to invest in a Brentford play, I don't know if now's the time. And the news is also that the new striker Thiago is included in their squad after his injury in pre-season. In terms of fixtures trending downwards, Forest are right at the bottom, you see over there. So again, not a good time to get wood. In terms of Everton now, Brentford is all right, not that great, that being said, but the Brentford not that prolific away from home. Manchester United and Wolves, and then the run toughens up. So if you have a Mikalenko, you have to be looking at an exit plan very soon. Again, now the usual things we do with Sertal's projections. First of all, a huge congrats from all of us at the FPL Wire to Sertal and his team for winning the bronze at the Football Content Awards last night. Huge fans of theirs. Now, I've included goalkeepers just for this video because I know a lot of you guys were on Wildcard. If you guys haven't checked it out already, highly recommend checking out the video with FPL Schofield, who's a total FPL geek. I really enjoyed that. So obviously now Rhea is out, you see, on top by a significant distance, 32.1 to the next premium keeper, 28.7. So premium keeper, no option now. It's Rhea. He's actually 5.5 now, not 5.6 as you see in this image. In the next tier, it's actually quite close. If you look at Sanchez, Martinez, Pope, Leno, Verbruggen, there's not much to separate them. My pick personally would be Verbruggen. I just don't trust the Chelsea defense. I think Sanchez is just a calamity waiting to happen. You want certainty. You don't want to be spending a transfer there. Brighton's fixtures are quite good. Now, defenders is again something we needed to look at because of the things I mentioned about Lewis and Mikalenko. We will be needing to spend a transfer in defense, I think, very soon. The Arsenal guys go right on top. I don't think Timbers, they have enough data to quantify it in terms of projections. Gabriel and Saliba top it. Trent, there are some injury concerns. The news I've heard is he's out of Southampton for sure and targeting maybe the Manchester City or Real Madrid games. Virgil, Guardiol. Reece James is on here, but again, he's out of tomorrow's game with a hamstring injury. I do hope we can see him again this season with some consistent, and I think he will be playing the centre back role for the foreseeable. So in terms of FPL, bit of a dead zone. Dean has been fantastic this season in terms of chances created, but what's happening now with Villa, the schedule is getting congested, and they're also in the Carabao Cup. They don't have a free midweek now all the way to January, so I do think Maatsen is going to see some game time in those games. The last thing you want Dean is to miss out something like a Southampton at home, which would be quite annoying. Dalot, still a bit of an unknown as to what the Manchester United wing-backs might be. He might prefer to use midfielders there like a Garnacho, so TBD on that one. Spurs defense, I just cannot recommend. Skip. Colville, if you're looking at an entry into the Chelsea defense with decentish fixtures, although I still don't like our clean sheet potential, Colville will be the one I go for. Lot of uncertainty regarding the fullbacks. Dunk, Van Heck, about the same. The news is that Dunk should be fit. You might look to save 0.1 there. And then Lewis Hall there right at the bottom, which I think is a bit harsh. It's probably because his pass minutes are not that great, but he's been taking a lot of set pieces now for Newcastle, which I think the algorithm hasn't caught up on. This is another great graphic now from Rob T. Based on now what you're seeing here is bookies' projections for attacking returns for defenders only. This does not include clean sheets. So obviously you guys know which teams are better for clean sheet potential, so you can weigh them accordingly. Now in terms of actual attacking returns, I'm quite surprised to see Trent is not here. I'm going to have players, yeah, it says right at the bottom that Trent's numbers are not included, I guess potentially because of his injury risk. So I think Trent, if he was here, he would be right at the top. After that, you see Nuri, Porro, Guardiol, Gabriel. Again, as a centre back, it's quite impressive to see him on there. James, I really hope that comes to fruition. And Lewis, right? This is why we've been backing Lewis for so long in the hope for attacking returns, but they've just not come. Leif Davis, Hall, like you see, is right up there, primarily because of this potential from set pieces I was talking about, right? So 4.4 for Hall does look like a snip. Now, the United wing-backs will obviously jump up once we know who is actually going to be playing those wing-back role. We'll have 2 games of data now, I think between game week 12 and 13. Obviously, the game at the weekend against Ipswich and also in the Europa League where the position is a little bit precarious. He will have to play a strongish team there, I think. Now, a quick look at the mids over here. Salah and Palmer, pretty close, but way out on top ahead of all the other premium guys. But Bruno at 8.4. is quite interesting, but again, it remains to be seen what sort of role Bruno plays, right? He might be playing in the front 3. It could be Mount, it could be Rashford, it could be Ahmad. We just don't know. Maybe Bruno plays deeper, but I do think he will be one of the front 3. So again, the data is a little bit speculative over here. The budget mids now, I think now, I won't even call them budget mids, let's call them the mid-price mids between your Mitoma, Madueke, etc. Nobody really appeals to me now. I think Mitoma purely because of the fixtures, but again, congestion for Brighton with so many attackers available, I'm not that confident, and he doesn't feel as talismanic as he did under De Zerbi. I wouldn't touch Madueke with a barge pole. Now, below that, Semenyo is currently an injury doubt. If he's pass fit, I like him as a pick, and Rogers as well. I think you would be playing Rogers over Semenyo this week if you're given the option. Semenyo obviously is on the 4 yellow cards. You need to keep that in mind. Forwards, Haaland right on top, but if you go back to the previous slide, his projections are actually lower than Salah and Palmer. But again, as I mentioned, right, algorithms rely on past data significantly. They can't quantify the effect of Pep Guardiola signing a new contract. They can't quantify the fact that Haaland scored a hat-trick on international duty. That helps his mentality, right? It can't really quantify that De Bruyne is coming back into the side now, Grealish is coming back, etc. So again, add your own judgment to these projections as always. Similarly with Isak, these projections might be dented. I would dent them a little bit now, slightly with Wilson coming back. If Wilson is on the pitch, he might want to take the penalty. Bit of a selfish dude, we already know that. Watkins is high up there, but again, with so many fixtures coming for Villa, would it surprise you if he misses like a midweek game? Would it surprise you if he misses an easier fixture like a Southampton at home? It wouldn't. Jackson, again, very interesting given Chelsea's fantastic fixtures. Also on 4 yellow cards. He is capable of avoiding that ban. Last year, he avoided, I think he was on 9 yellow cards. He avoided that 10th booking for a long, long time. So most of the time is for just talking back to the referee. So it is very much avoidable. But I like Cunha a lot more than Jackson, and you see the projections are quite similar for a whole 1 million cheaper. So if you're going for a sub 7 million forward, it's Cunha for me, hands down. Welbeck, I do think the schedule will catch up to him a little bit. I think Evan Ferguson is fit. They have Joao Pedro, a lot of other options. Wood's appeal is again dented, as mentioned earlier. With Jimenez also, there might potentially be some minutes concerns with the fixture congestion coming. Will they prefer Muniz in a game when they have, let's say, a Thursday, Saturday, Sunday turnaround? I don't really know. And I'll talk about Jimenez a little bit more. I have some concerns with him right now after this international break as well. Then we have Evanilson, Truss's twin over there, again with favorable numbers. Schofield was quite high on him. Schofield is a Bournemouth fan, so I like him as a pick as well. Now, the sub 6 million, some other picks are also interesting. A lot of people are getting frustrated on our Discord with Strand Larsen. I don't really understand why. The numbers are still good. The fixtures are still good. At 5.6, he's absolutely just fine. Joao Pedro, obviously, fantastic pick. Whether you should buy him this week, I think he will start. I don't think Bournemouth is a great fixture, but it's not a bad fixture. It's sort of the game that feels like a 2-2 to me. So if you need to in the market for a forward this week, Pedro's your man. Now the usual Rob T projections for goals and clean sheets. Now it's an interesting week this week. On paper, it looks like a good fantasy week with a lot of the big teams and Manchester United facing the promoted teams now. I had to get that dig in while I can, right? I do think they'll improve a lot under Amorim, but till they get to the top 6, it's going to keep coming. I see Chelsea are very high over there, City 2, Arsenal, Liverpool, Newcastle, Manchester United at 2, Bournemouth at 1.7 is interesting as well. So a lot of teams projected to score a lot of goals. The games we expect to be fairly low scoring are probably I think just the Everton Brentford one, because you see every other fixture there almost has a blue. It's very rare to see if you've been following these numbers, which is interesting. I think a lot of us have defensive dilemmas this week in terms of our cheapies. You obviously play your Liverpool and Arsenal guys, but let's look at some of the others now. Like personally, I have a dilemma now. I have 3 defenders, out of which I need to play 2. That is Rico Lewis, Mikalenko, and Nouri. Let's look at some numbers here now. Wolves have 14% clean sheet odds, very, very low. But again, you have to treat Nouri as an attacker. But with the news to Bueno, with how good Fulham been at home, I'm not that optimistic on Nouri's prospects this week. With City, it's 28%, but would Rico Lewis even start? I really don't know. I'm going to have a look at the Hive Mind predictions. If you guys don't know what the Hive Mind is, on Twitter, they do a roundup. They ask Premier League fans of each club to give their predictions of the starting lineups, and they collate them. So worth looking at is at Jump the Wave on Twitter. And then let's look at Everton, 27%. So pretty close to Rico Lewis, but almost double that of Nouri. So I think I will be playing Mikalenko and Rico Lewis with probably Nouri's second bench after Larsen based on this data, because you see here Fulham's clean sheet odds are quite good for 34%. Pras was mentioning on his video whether he should play Cunha or DCL. I'd still rather play Cunha because I just think he's a baller and DCL is frankly a bit rubbish. Again, another visual similar to that one. The most goals are projected to be scored by Liverpool. Man City also, now the bookies actually quantify the loss of, let's say, Van der Ven and Romero in this data. So despite that, City are only projected to score 2.5. Liverpool is the highest over here. Chelsea, Newcastle, and Arsenal. Again, 7 of the top sides you expect to be around the top 8 of the table, all projected to score the highest with all favorable matchups this week. Similarly, the clean sheet projections are good for Arsenal, Liverpool, Villa, Newcastle, Fulham, and Chelsea. Similarly, in terms of match odds, you see over here a lot of lopsided games. The only games that you could see are potentially close are Bournemouth, Brighton, and Everton, Brentford. Should be an interesting week. Traditionally, the week after the international break, you see results being a little bit unpredictable, but I think with so many teams facing up against lesser opposition, could be a high-scoring week. At least we hope so. Now, Rob's done something interesting over here with the goal points. Now, normally he has projected goal scorers over here, but as we know, points scored for midfielders for a goal is more than it is for forwards, right? So he's actually changed that weightage now. So he added the equivalent FPL goal points. Now, this is for your captaincy decision. The ranking is Salah, Haaland, and Palmer. I think Salah and Haaland is pretty close. Palmer is a way back. And again, I don't fancy the fixture as much because it's an away game. I think Leicester might keep it tight on their own patch. Then you have Isak, Saka, bit of injury doubt, we don't know yet. Jackson, Watkins, Højlund, Evanilson, and Raul. Raul, I'm a bit more pessimistic about because his minutes he played for Mexico. He's played both games for them. I think they had a playoff match against Honduras. They lost the first leg 2-0. Won the second leg 4-0 where he got a goal and assist, but he played 89 minutes in the second leg, 70 odd minutes in the first leg. The game only finished at about 2:30 a.m. No, 4 a.m. in the UK on like Wednesday. So whether he starts or not is TBD. We haven't heard anything from Silva. I don't think he will give us much clarity either way. But in the last time this happened, that being said, last time it happened, Jimenez played only one of the games. He said that Jimenez is too important, that's why we had to play him. So I think he might get something like 60, 65 minutes, and the matchup is great. He's playing a team that's conceded 27 goals in 11 matches. This is something interesting that Rob has done as well. Now from market data, he's classified the attack into different tiers, and I think this helps us visualize what we already know. City and Liverpool are obviously the two best attacks in the league, with Chelsea, Arsenal and Spurs very close, very similar. In the next tier, Manchester United, Newcastle, Villa and Brighton. So Brighton being there speaks volumes, right? Because you'd expect all the other guys to be there, but Brighton's attack has been upgraded. And then you have Bournemouth and Fulham. Brentford, despite scoring, I think, the second or third most goals this season, are just in fifth. West Ham, Wolves and Forest are similar, with Everton, Palace, Leicester, Ipswich and Southampton. So the fact that Everton and Palace are there with the bottom, like your promoted teams in terms of attack, tells you a lot. Our captaincy projections from Sertal from game week 12 is quite close. I always like to look at the ensemble projections. It's not a huge gap between Haaland at 7.43, Salah at 7.86. Palmer is a ways behind still at 6.93. I think that would be my guess as well. And a lot of the other websites, the distance is quite stark. I think Haaland is quite a way ahead. For example, you see on the second side, Fix. On most of the other sides, Salah is ahead. And if you ask me, it would be Salah this week as well. I think the fact that he's had the rest, Liverpool are purring, it's a Sunday game. Southampton are at home where they will look to attack a little bit. I think that's what I favor. It's interesting that Tokfam has Palmer up there with Salah in second. But again, you know my thoughts on that. I think all three are decent players this week. My preference would probably be Salah, Haaland, Palmer as the ensemble projections show. Again, for future planning, it's always worth looking at what the captaincy was going to be like in future weeks. And so Palmer, you can see, is all over the place in terms of like captaincy. If you look at the scout projections, you could just go Salah, Palmer for the near future and forget about Haaland. So going without Haaland is, again, very much a viable strategy. Now, before we get into my team and look at the watch list, a plug for Sleeper. And this is for the UCL Pick'em game. Now, if you guys don't know, with the Pick'em, what it involves is picking the team, picking a correct result. That is win, draw or loss. No correct scores have to be predicted. And for the UCL, the game is pretty much unique to every match day. The scores don't really carry over to the next. The prizes to be won every match day. And I think this match day in particular is quite interesting because there are some very good UCL matchups. I think Liverpool play Real Madrid, Villa play Juventus. So a lot of games that are potentially tricky to call, and this is when you could get an edge if you get your predictions right. So as you see the prizes over there, the top 1, 2, and 3 of each pool share 1,000 USD worth of prizes. There are PS5, Switches, etc., etc. And again, completely free to play. There's no gambling involved of any kind, and it's available to play around the world. You can download the Sleeper app using the second code. The code all the way to the right is for a Premier League Pick'em, and the big QR code you see in the middle is for the Champions League Pick'em pool. Get joining, completely free, and it's a lot of fun. Just provide some engagement during UCL nights for me. Now, quite a few changes in the watch list this time around, especially in defense. I put Verbruggen up there as my top keeper replacement. He's probably somebody I will be looking to buy for Flecken soon. Rea, price Nova, is the one you go for. Sanchez, I'm a little bit iffy on, but with fixtures and the lack of upside from the other guys, it's something I can get behind. Hall is my preferred cheapie. I like my defenders to have a bit of attacking potential, and I think Newcastle will benefit from the lack of European fixtures over this congestion. Gabriel, Nouri, you don't need me to talk about. Timber is an interesting one now. The news that has come out is Ben White has had surgery and he'll be out for 6 to 8 game weeks now. The question remains, will Timber start every game now over this period? Because he's had some issues of his own, right? He missed almost all of last season. So it will be asking him a lot of him, especially since Arsenal have UCL games. But the only alternative they really have is Thomas Partey. I think Tomiyasu is still a while away. So Partey really doesn't give you much going forward. And the fixtures being easy-ish, you would want Timber over there. Van Heck, again, Brighton defense representation. You could go for Dunk if he's fit. not much attacking threat from the centre backs anyway. Again, Salah and Haaland don't make the watch list as per the usual thing. Palmer, Bruno. Couple of guys I've thrown in there, Bowen and Mitoma, just somebody I'm watching now. For the short term, I don't think you'd rush in to buy. I think Bowen I would only buy if West Ham end up sacking their manager. In terms of forward, that's not Solanke. I keep making one error in this video. My proofreading just needs to be a lot better. That's Jackson, Joao Pedro, Wissa, Cunha, and Isaac. In terms of forwards to buy, I think if I was to buy one today, Joao Pedro would be right at the top of my list, followed by Isaac. With Jackson, I do worry about some early substitutions during this congested period. I do think he'll start most of the games. There's also the threat of the yellow card, but obviously not a bad pick for a high ceiling. Now, this is my team for this week. I've got 0.6 million in the bank and one free transfer. I've got Flecken in goal, Mikolenko, Gabriel, and Lewis. And this is, as you guys heard earlier, this is my defensive dilemma for this week, whether I should bring in Nouri. For Lewis is something I'll probably leave till late, see what Pep says, see what the team news says, see what the hive mind says, etc. Because I've also heard that Kovacic might be injured, which might open up a spot for Lewis in midfield. Salah captain, Bumo, Semenyo, Palmer, and Rogers. Haaland vice with Raul. On the bench, Strand Larsen, Nouri, and Greaves. Like I was mentioning with Raul, right? I'm a little bit worried if he's going to start. I will probably want to do the move next week, Raul to Joao Pedro, for when Joao Pedro has Southampton at home. Raul's fixtures get a little bit tougher. He has Tottenham, Brighton, and some tougher games. And it also frees up a bit of money. But I don't think I'm going to do it this week, because I think this week the matchup is significantly better with Raul. So I think I am going to stick to the guys I mentioned earlier. That's it for this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We have a lot of content we did over the international break. If you guys haven't checked it out, please like and subscribe, leave a comment, and we will try to reply to everyone. Thanks for joining us.